something I started, I want to say in November, but I'm not going to worry about when it is. I already went through my anxiety of, wait, I got to figure out what I talked about last time and do I do it in order or not? You know what? When it comes to the story of us, of me and my DM and our family, I'm not going to worry too much about the order or whether I tell it or don't. I've had many, many requests because I mentioned things in various videos to tell my story. And I like doing it mostly just because I like the memories, the good and the bad, and the contrast, and even the remorseful, regretful moments, but also because I know that it helps others be able to share their stories. And I've generally been one of the few to encourage people to share their stories, especially if you do feel like you're on a twin flame journey. And I know I often see these posts that talk about what is it? Keep your successes secret because then nobody can sabotage them, or don't talk about the good things in your life and things like that. And that's for me personally. Like, if that's good for you, do it. But for me, this never worked, and it tends to take away from our authenticity. And when we're trying to hide a part of ourselves, whether it's a good part or a bad part, we typically manifest situations where we don't feel seen and we don't feel heard and we don't feel supported, and mostly and more than by others, by ourselves. And I want to help heal that for those who also want to help heal that. And it's truly, genuinely one of the most freeing and satisfying feelings, being able to embrace the absurdity of just being authentic. In any case, I don't really know why. I mean, my DM and I have been in a bit of conflict lately, but this morning I've just been filled with memories of when we first met, and something that actually I was in really deep icky feelings, or not icky but squishy. In my tribe we call it squishy feelings, about how much I missed certain things that occurred, most especially when we met. And I'm also thinking about something that I said to my DM once, to where, oh, it was during separation, and I was telling him about, I believe it was a karmic that was attempting to ambiguously show me that he was reinterested, but wasn't making any sort of attempt to, well, make reparations for unhealthy ways that he treated me. And I just was like, no, I'm not going to make any effort toward, I'm not investing any more of my time in you or anyone else who doesn't find me worthy of that, because I know I'm worthy of that. And he said something about, because this was somebody that made him very jealous, because without even trying to, I had manifested somebody that was a lot like him in background story and things like that. But he had shown me, at least in the beginning, a lot more honesty and transparency, and I desperately wanted that from my DM, and so I shared it with him. Um, which was, it was kind of the start of separation. I was upset because he was emotionally cheating and holding on to a lot of exes and stuff. And so I was like, you know what? If you're not willing to heal that, if you're not willing to put both feet in, then I'm taking a foot out. And why don't we try like polyamory or something like that until you're ready for a genuine, full on commitment? And he had been using that, my telling him about what I liked about these interactions with these other people, that I liked the transparency and that it really wasn't that hard. And I'm like, see, like, look at this. This is somebody that I barely know, who barely knows me, who does not have the same challenges with transparency and honesty. At least so I thought in the beginning. And he'd been using that as a reason to stay away. Partially because he felt like he couldn't be honest, he couldn't share his feelings and stuff, and partially because he felt inadequate that somebody else could do that. And of course, my attempt to just communicate, look, this is what I'd like for us, got turned into rejection. And in any case, he was asking me like, why don't you want to give this guy a chance? He seemed so great in the beginning. And I said, yeah, the irony is that usually the people with the biggest red flags do seem pretty darn perfect in the beginning, which I also knew was something that he was realizing with his own karmic situationship. And it was like, that's something that I'd learned both, well, not so much through him. And actually, it was something that I realized pretty early on that I loved about our story was that when we met, we were both so tired of faking things for other people, of placating, of pandering, of doing all that, that we were like, you know what, fuck it. If it doesn't make me happy, if it doesn't make me feel good, if people don't accept me for who I am and how I am, I'm not going to pay no mind to them. I'm going to do it anyways. And it's funny because during that conversation, which was more recently this last year, he had said something about, yeah, well, everybody does that. Everybody fakes in the beginning. And I looked at him and I said, you didn't. And he was like, what? And I said, think about when we met. I said, you didn't put on a mask with me, and I didn't put on a mask with you. And it's funny because we did kind of. Like, when you say, I don't care about anyone who doesn't care about me, it's a mask and stuff. But we were both genuinely trying, we were both really young too, so we were genuinely trying to get to that energy of like self love and self trust and self respect. And so we didn't fake with each other. I mean, if anything, it was mostly some ghosting dynamics just because of fear of sharing bigger emotions. But even at that, like, I mean, I can, one of the things that I genuinely will always have pleasant memories about is that after our initial meeting, when I said, "Look, I'm not worried about love. I'm just going to have fun. I just want to enjoy things, I want friends with benefits because I really like the friendships and I can enjoy the benefits too, and I'm tired of being around people who say that they want relationships and that's not really what they want, or somehow I don't qualify, and that's I'm going to go with the flow." And he was still entangled in a karmic marriage and was tired of being cheated on and belittled and made to feel that everything was always his fault. So he was like, I'm done with that. Granted, clearly I wasn't fully in the energy that I wanted to be in, and neither was he, but we were genuine about wanting to be. And there was just something about that. We both have some strong Aries placements too, and so it kind of opened up this beautiful banter between us, and like playfully poking fun at each other, and just enjoying the energy. And there wasn't, because I had already laid down, especially because of how young I was, that I wanted no strings attached sort of thing, which is where the real lie was. I wanted strings attached. I was just tired of of crappy strings. I'd rather have had genuine strings that developed on their own. And I know he really liked that because what he was used to from feminine energies was like the instant that you give them any sort of positive attention, they try to claim you. They want all the strings attached, complete control, and not in the fun kinky sort of way. In any case, after that, there was a fair amount of time that we spent just walking. Sometimes we'd talk. In fact, it's funny, as chatty as I can be, I find most often that with my DM, I want to listen. In fact, it was one of the biggest things that bothered me when things started to go south when we did have union, that he stopped talking to me. And most especially because he would complain about how I didn't listen. And most of my henpecking was about him not talking anymore, you know? Not being genuine, not being honest. And I love going back to the energy of just remembering those walks. I mean, yeah, we did other things too, but most of our time was just walking. We'd walk to go do something for him, whether it be go pick up a car battery, or we'd walk to like a Denny's or Sherry's, or we'd walk to one of my friends' houses, or we'd walk to a park, or we'd just walk. Like we didn't have to have a destination. Sometimes we'd hold hands, sometimes we wouldn't, sometimes we'd run into people and get into trouble, and at other times we'd run into fun. And it was just nice. I think that's something later on, even when we got our first apartment together and started attempting to have a genuine commitment, that we used to laugh at each other because for all the fun and closeness that we had, we we felt like we'd really mastered the ability to sit and ignore each other in the right energy in the same company. You know, like I'd be on my laptop doing some writing and he'd be on his working on his music, and we didn't feel needy of like you have to give me all your attention, or you have to be doing something right now for me, or if you're not paying attention to me you must be doing you something must be wrong. And we used to joke about how like that's a key to a happy relationship. It's not in all the time that you spend together, like that's included, but it's because we have a healthy ability to give each other space, and you don't always have to request it. And it's funny to think back to like how a lot of that started. Just say thank you, Birdie, for confirming that. Right? It's nice to think back to all those times, whether we walked or we drove or we just met somewhere else. Like it was pleasant. It was nice. It was natural. It wasn't forced, and I really enjoyed a lot of that. I mean, oddly enough, especially the nighttime walks, but the daytime walks were nice too. And I know that one of the things he's always expressed was that he felt like most, pretty much nobody genuinely listens to him. Ironically, that's something I know that he's learning is partially because that he's often, at least, well, throughout most of his life, he's often focused on like the memes I was talking about in the beginning about you don't share the good things. You don't talk about good memories with exes or things with your parents. You don't talk about like money successes. You don't do things like that. And so then what does that leave you with? It leaves you with the complaints, and that becomes an addiction of its own kind. Thank you, Bird, for confirmation, right? And on top of that, I mean, who wants to spend all their time talking with someone who never has anything really good to talk about? Even I've been in that energy. That's part of why I called for separation, because I recognized that I was getting into that energy. In my attempt to reach down and help pull him back up, I lost focus on myself and got into that place where I only ever had anything negative to say about anyone or even about myself. It's not a fun energy to be around, but it is nice when you can just have those moments where you can be yourself. You don't have to put on a mask, where you actually feel extra safe. And being vulnerable and recognizing that being vulnerable isn't like it isn't always moments when you cry. Sometimes being able to be vulnerable with someone means that you can be mad at them and they won't take it exceptionally personally all the time. Sometimes it means that you can say an off-colored comment about something and they know your heart and they know that you don't mean some really obtuse thing. I don't know, it means a lot of things. In any case, I think I'm going to leave that here. I know it wasn't a super detailed memory, but it's meaningful to me. And I think it's important to really recognize that oftentimes the big magic that we look for, that we expect to see in like some giant burning bush or something, is it's in the little moments. It's in the moments we might otherwise qualify as mundane. It's the little things. And I don't know, just today I'm feeling a really good appreciation for the little things because they add up and they make meaningfully big things. Anyways, I hope you take some time today to think about what you find pleasant about your journey with yourself, and if you have a twin, with them, and if you haven't met them yet, if you feel them in the ethers, then the future memories you can feel materializing.